Hi there, Richard Lewis with another video and a bit of a departure. We've had some fun ones, had some funny ones, and we've interviewed some people as well. So we're going to do something a little bit more serious, but hopefully you still find it interesting. Obviously, that I've talked a lot about player contracts. I talk very openly about them. And I say, player contracts still exist in this ridiculous dark ages mentality where basically whatever the company, gaming organization can get out of the player, they'll take it, whatever they can get. And they reach out to players who perhaps aren't at the very peak of their powers yet, that don't have the biggest name, haven't made a reputation for themselves through their skills or whatever. And they lock them in to these egregious contracts, things that just have clauses in that are just grotesque and disgusting. And then they say, oh, well, don't mention this, don't talk about the details of your contract. We've got to sign now. You can't get legal consultation. And players always invariably end up regretting signing these. So I get sent these all the time. People always ask me to look over contracts. I stress I'm happy to do it. I can give it advice, but not legal advice. I'm not legally trained. I only know about contract law from looking at contracts. So it's not like I've been trained or anything like that. I can certainly put you in touch with legal counsel. Happy to do that. But I get sent this a lot, and people ask for my impartial advice. And I got sent this one. And this one was sent to me a while ago. What we've done is I've got Sam to go through, delete any identifying information, and I'm just going to talk about this contract. It was one of the worst ones that I saw that I've been presented with, but it's by no means abnormal. This is the kind of contract that a lot of tier 2 teams certainly, and some tier 1 teams as well, get presented. And I think it's important that just to show you people that criticize me and go, Richard Lewis is like some sort of beta socialist cook. He doesn't believe in that people should have to adhere to contracts. Actually, not true. But I do believe contracts should be fair and protect both parties equally. And the contracts I see out there floating around don't do that. And this is a Counter-Strike contract. So we'll just jump straight into it. Sam will bring up clauses as and when they're appropriate. So we'll just start by having a brief overview at Section 2. Section 2 of the contract is services. So this is basically all the sort of services that the organization will render for the player, any agreements that need to be made, any definitions. And you can see just, A and B are just outlining what it is, who the team is, what the game is, what services are. And obviously, then we got 2B, which says that all the services hereunder subject to all terms and conditions of the agreement. It says C, the company should not control the manner or means by which the player performs these services. And then we get into it. So D, the player agrees to wear the clothing, uniforms, hats, patches, badges, and other material, the team apparel, as well as to use, display, and feature all hardware, equipment, peripherals, food items, beverage items, and other goods and services specified by the team or the company at all competitions, publicity events, and promotional activities, each is defined below. And the player further agrees to wear such team apparel while streaming, engaging in social media activities, providing a visual of player, or otherwise engage in any gaming-based professional activity where the player's image is visible. So basically, if you're doing anything relating to the game, you've got to be wearing the team shirt. You have to be wearing the team shirt, the team hat. If they've got an energy drink sponsor, you've got to be drinking that drink. And failure to deliver on this can result in penalty. You would technically be in violation of the contract. Now, look, I understand that a lot of teams do this. So this is actually standard. This isn't. And if a lawyer was here with me, the lawyer would tell you, yeah, this is perfectly normal. So just to give you an idea about this is considered fair. This is a reasonable thing to expect. I remember a long time ago, I was at a certain StarCraft event and I saw a player who'd been at this event for 4 days or something, and he'd ran out of gaming shirts because he didn't have access to a laundry. And, obviously they do start to smell. You sweat, you're under hot lights, you're playing for 8 hours a day. And he ran out of gaming shirts, and he went onto a stream not wearing a gaming shirt and was instantly called by the team owner. And how dare you? How dare you not wear a shirt while you're on air? And was told that they might dock some of his pay. that it was unacceptable, that he had an obligation to all of the sponsors. And unfortunately for the same player, he was then later caught on stream when he put on one of the smelly T-shirts that he had to wear again, walk around with BO or whatever. He then was caught drinking an energy drink that wasn't one of the official team sponsors, because they didn't have the official team sponsors energy drink at this event, and was also later chastised for it. And this is just the tightrope you have to walk when you're a professional player. Now, again, I can see both sides of this argument, but I think common sense has to apply. This sounds just a little bit skewed to me. Competitions, players should perform at the best of his ability in all competitions. I think that's fair enough. Streaming's got a couple of things here. So first of all, streaming, which to me has always been the dominion of the player, it's your platform, it's your Twitch account. If it's Twitch, it's your streaming account. You're personally responsible for that account. You very often have that account before and after your tenure with the team. Yet when you sign a contract with a team, suddenly they own that as well. And you can see here that you have to agree to exclusively stream on any service provider of the company's choice, which includes Twitch, MLG TV, Azubu, and YouTube Live. And obviously there's other ones out there as well. So basically, this can lead to situations, and this has happened. It certainly happened in the Fnatic League of Legends team quite publicly. When they left Twitch to go to Azubu, Xpeke, one of the most popular players, had to move with Fnatic to Azubu, and he had to leave behind all of his subs that he built up, all of his followers. He had to leave that behind, and he had absolutely no say in it whatsoever. And this obviously is an ongoing problem. So because I've built that up, let's say I've built that up independently. If I join this team, I sign all of that away, and suddenly it becomes the dominion of your new employer, even though it's something you own and will be expected to maintain and utilize when you end your tenure with this team, or should for any reason they want to kick you. And the second part of the streaming clause is that you have to use any custom stream overlay the company wants. And in the event the company doesn't give you an overlay, so let's say the company can't be bothered to make an overlay, they still get to insist that you display the logos, the brands, the coloration, the designs, or any other mark of entity, product, or service sponsoring the team as outlined by your organization. So they don't even have to design you an overlay, but if you stream, you have to put all of this shit up there, regardless. So it's your own personal streaming space, but the sponsors are going to get to reach out to your audience just by virtue of you representing another organization. Which, again, I say to players all the time, if you're popular in your own right and you've built up a streaming platform in your own right, make sure you get recompense for agreeing to this outside of just your salary, because you are effectively giving them access to your audience, and that you should receive financial compensation accordingly for that. You had a bit of a laugh at this one, Sam. So, you can tell me why. Sponsorship obligations. So, players agree to participate at the company's request in a reasonable number of marketing, advertising, personal appearances, photo sessions, and other promotional activities for the benefit of the team and/or company. Now, the reasonable amount is that it shall not exceed 8 hours per month, excluding travel. So
cross-course flight.
So let's say, for example, I have to go and do a photo shoot somewhere, and it's going to be a 3-hour flight to get there, 2 hours of photo shoot, 3-hour flight back. I've obviously lost 6 hours of, earning potential, life potential, but I don't get compensated for the travel. They'll pay for the travel, but I don't get anything back for that. It doesn't come out of my agreement. So it's 8 hours where you're actually doing something. But this is where it gets interesting, because even though they've said it shall not exceed 8 hours, if the company needs you to do more 8 hours, you've just got to do it. You've just got to suck it up and do it. But they'll give you a compensation of $20 per hour.
Sick.
Loads of money, mate. Rolling in that moolah. So ultimately, a sponsorship obligation is valued at $20 per hour by this organization. So, and it says here, publicity, Players shall render a reasonable amount of publicity services separate and distinct from promotional activities, including but not limited to active use of social media to promote the team, its sponsors, and its affiliates, to be determined at the company's sole discretion. If no detailed requirements are provided to the player by the company, the regular daily use of the team's approved marks on social media should be considered a rendering of a reasonable amount of publicity activities as contemplated herein. The player shall not engage in any other publicity activities, either for the team, the company, the player, or any other person or entity without the prior express written consent of the company. So, again, this is, hey, you're signing a contract with us. We now own your social media account. And we get to dictate what you say on that social media account, and understand that even if we do not expressly tell you to say something on it, we still expect that you will promote, you will have our logos, our decking, our sponsors, and all that other bullshit on there. You have to do that. That's the bare minimum. And again, I say to people, if you're an incredibly popular player, if you've got your own following, make sure you're not just giving away your social media account, because you are a bigger brand than the team that might be signing you. And if that's the case, they're going to have a Twitter account that will not have as many followers as you. You will be their principal social media reach, and that has to be reflected in the money that you get. And unfortunately, in this contract and lots of others that I see, they sign players, some of which have social media followings, others that don't. Some are more popular than others, and yet they give you all the same salary, which is ridiculous. We'll skip services unique, because that's, again, for any exceptional circumstances. Prohibitions, obviously. You can't wear, display, otherwise promote or publicize any identifying logo, name, brand, color, design, or other marks of any person, entity, product, or service other than the team apparel or approved marks at any esports gaming event or activity, media interview, promotional activity, publicity activity, or other occasion when he represents the team or the company without the prior written consent of the company. So to put this in context, not only are you expected, as we saw from the team apparel clause, to always be wearing team apparel and sponsors, and drinking the drinks and eating the food and G Fuel coming out your ass and whatever else, right? If you want to wear something at a gaming event that isn't team apparel and isn't on that list of things you're expected to wear, you need express written permission. And also, this includes to anything. So let's say, for example, I don't know, give me a popular brand of clothing, Sam.
Nike.
All right. Is it Nike or Nike? I think it's Nike.
I always said Nike.
Yeah. All right. Whatever. It's good. We won't get into this. We won't get into that. Right, but Nike. So, cause Nike, I might look good. I might have this really nice Nike T-shirt. I might like the Nike swoosh. I might have, it might just be a tiny little tick on a nice black T-shirt. I'm wearing a brand that isn't at all associated with my apparel. Now, it might be you don't have an apparel sponsor in the sense that, you're not sponsored by an Adidas or a Nike or whoever the fuck, right? Or a Puma, right? You're not sponsored by any of these companies, but you certainly can't wear Nike because it's a brand. So you can't do that. And exclusivity, the E word, always good. All services provided by players during the term should be provided on an exclusive basis, such that players shall only play for and represent the team during the term and should be restricted from playing, representing, or otherwise promoting any of the CSGO team without the express written permission, blah, 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 blah. And that's fair enough. I mean, that's all reasonable. You are a team player. You play only for that team. You will not represent anybody else. So now we get to compensation. And obviously when we start talking money is the big stumbling block. Money is the big sticking point for a lot of people. And keep in mind, this was a revised draft of a contract. This wasn't even as bad as it got, right? So remember that. This was revised down to where it is now, and it's still, in my opinion, unreasonable. So it says the players that perform all these services get this. So you can see the salary. Salary is $3,000, which again, look, we can talk about this. $3,000 a month to be a professional player. There's some people out there that'll say, hey, that's a lot of money. That's more than I earn in my factory job or whatever. Okay, cool. But equally, there's a lot of expectations being put on these people, as we can see just from the clauses we've outlined. We haven't even got to the rest of it. So $3,000 a month, that currently in Counter-Strike terms is at the lower end of the salary scale, honestly. So this would be one of the lower salaries at the professional level, just so you guys know. Now, this is where it starts to get interesting. Prize money. So all prize money gets paid to the company. won't go in your bank account as a player, right? It goes to them first. And this can obviously create lots of problems, because if the company's holding onto your prize money and then they were suddenly to go under, to go bankrupt, boom, your money goes with them. Doesn't matter that you earned it. You wouldn't get a fucking penny of that. And given that there's so many of these fly-by-night bedroom organizations, that is actually a real risk in our business, in our space. That is actually a real risk. But no, it goes to the company, and it's in the contract that it goes to the company, and you agree that it goes to the company. So they get your money first. And when they get that money, the first thing they do is take 10% out of it. And the 10% is for administrative costs. And you're like, oh, but 10% of the prize money, Richard, that's not bad. 10%, it's not bad. You know, that means 90% goes to the players. Wrong. No, they take that 10% for the administrative costs. And then that amount that's left over isn't 90%. That becomes 100%, right? So then what they do is there's 70% of that amount that's left over gets paid to the players, only starting roster players, by the way. And then that's the players' portion, as it's known. That's 70% of the 90%. And then the 30% is retained by the company. And then it gets worse, because you're like, oh, wow, so they only get that percentage? That's actually not great. And when you think about these teams and the kind of tournaments that they'll be playing at, you know, let's say these guys aren't going to win any big tournaments, you know, nonetheless there's some incredible circumstances around it. So they're getting kind of rinsed on the lower end of the prize scale. They're like losing, you know, the $50,000, the $20,000. You know, they're losing that significant amount from that. And again, think back to the salary and the compensation they're getting to give away this portion. Now it gets better though, because if the prize money exceeds $1 million, for all prize money above that amount, they change the percentages. So let's say you got lucky and you were a team and you went to a major, and I don't know, or an even bigger tournament than a major, or perhaps in a I imagine this is the standard contract across all of their games.
If you won the international.
Yeah, you won the international, let's say. There you go. Great example, Sam. So let's say you've won the international. All of a sudden, 50% goes to the company.
Reasonable.
50%. 50%. So they are literally using your success, which, by the way, so far we haven't seen any. You notice in the services that are outlined, it's all about what the player's going to do and not really what they're going to do. All there is an agreement that they're going to send you to events. They don't even fucking want to make you an overlay for your stream, but they think they can just bump it up to 50%. Should you win a huge prize punt? And then it says here, for the avoidance of doubt, the company will keep 37%, 20%. What the fuck?
Yeah, I don't know what that means.
Yeah, ignore that. It means 37%. They fucked that up in their own contract. So we'll keep 37% of any prize money earned by the team, calculated as 10% plus 27%, 90% times 30%. And if player is on the starting roster for such competition, players shall receive 12 and 6/10%. 12.6 is calculated as 90% times by 70%, dividing the result by 5, and the remaining players on such starting roster will divide equally the remaining prize money. All prize money payments should be calculated after applicable taxes, and similar governmental payments or withholdings have been deducted from the prize pool. So, I mean, apart from the fact that is like some fucking absolute nightmare, like, you know, you'd need to be some sort of fucking Chinese math wizard.
They've added extra words and numbers just to fuck with you. 37, 20, 97, times it by 5. That's like listening to
fucking Scott Steiner. It's absolute gibberish. It's well, there's 120% chance, and then if you add in the fact that I'm a genetic freak, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you. Right? That's literally, it's just a rambling, incoherent fucking load of gibberish. Absolute gibberish. And basically, you know, look, I think we can all agree that, I think maybe for smaller organizations that maybe can't monetize, I think taking a reasonable percentage of prize money, I think 10%. Right?
Yeah, I think that's about standard, 10%.
Yeah, I think that's okay. I think for small organizations, that's okay. I think in an ideal world, players should get all of the prize money, because you should be able to monetize in other ways. You know, you don't fuck with their prize money. Every time you bring in a big sponsor because they've won an event, you know, they don't get a percentage of that either, right? So, fine. Okay, cool. To the victor, the spoils. But when you start upping it to 50% just because they've had a big payday, I just imagine it. We're all high-fiving each other. Woo!
Just won
woo!
10 mil in
wait, hang on. we just give 50% of that away, and then we're going to get taxed on the remaining 50%. Like, it's not much to fucking cheer about, is it? It would really take the shine off. Like, if you ever see a team winning a national and they're like, woo.
That was a big problem at the start in the first few internationals. When a bunch of orgs right before the international would come in, they'd grab a bunch of orgs. That was a really big problem because there was a point where like orgs were taking 50%, sometimes even the majority. They'd be taking 60% of the prize pool because teams are so desperate to have everything paid for the international.
Oh, dude, I know some stories about some organizations, and I won't name them here. Maybe I'll tell them one day. But I knew one organization. And it's a story I never wrote, and obviously it was in Dota 2. So maybe it's just as well I didn't write it ultimately. But, there was just not enough time and not enough information. And, there's never any point publishing anything contentious in a community where people already just assume that you're the liar. It would have been hell on earth for like 3 months. And then it's like, oh, yeah, he was right. Well, we're still not going to take back all the death threats. But there was one organization that literally, to fund getting a team to the international, where they had in agreement, it was something unbelievable, like you say, 60% prize money contractual agreement. So to get a team to the international, they stopped paying everyone else in the org. Seriously, everybody else. Yeah. Everyone's salaries stopped. They retained prize money. The whole organization ground to a standstill just so they could get one team to an international, and they got there.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's worth it because there's so much money. Even if they come dead last, they get like 60 grand or something. I think it is. More now.
Yeah. So it was like, okay, we're gonna get 60% of that, and maybe it's like robbing Peter to pay Paul, dude. And people don't realize this, like that. One of the reasons why I've always maintained that having one huge prize fund in any esports scene is a bad thing. This is why. It drives people to demented levels of greed. It really eclipses everything else in the regular season. I just don't. I don't like it. I never have. I'd like to see. I like it like maybe that the international, with a prize fund, was basically distributed across the majors, if you know what I mean. And then like the international had that plus an additional million or something. Do you know what I mean? Something like that, right? Just something that didn't make it all about this one tournament, because organizations are fucking greedy. They are fucking greedy. They are using players. And here's the thing. When the unions invariably come, when the player associations invariably come, when agents invariably come, gone are these days. It's like everything else. It's like the skins gambling. It's grab what you can while you can. And managers and owners know they can exploit players and will do it. And they're doing it. So on the plus side, good news, that money that's been absolutely fucking rinsed, you do get it within 10 business days.
Really?
So it's that. So you can look at how much they fucking deducted in super quick time and have a cry. Now, this is interesting. Players can be moved back and forth from the team starting roster and substitute roster pursuant to Section 13. We'll get to that. If a player is placed on a substitute roster, player is not entitled to receive prize money earned by the team for its performance during that competition, which is fair enough. You don't earn the prize, I guess you don't get any. But if a player is on the starting roster for part of a competition but not the entire competition, the player shall be entitled to receive a prorated percentage for all the prize money earned. So that's fine. So for the avoidance of doubt, if a player's on the roster for 2 matches out of 3, they get 2/3 and 1/5, and here's some of the numbers and blah, blah, blah. So that's fair. But what you'll find out a little bit later on is, like, you can just get bumped onto the fucking sub roster, and in an original draft of this contract you got nothing. So they changed that. This is a banger.
This is unbelievable.
So keep in mind everything we just talked about. You own your streaming fucking platform. It's your shit. They come in, you sign a contract. We own that now. Use this overlay. Oh wait, we didn't make you an overlay. Make your own overlay and use that. All personal live streaming revenues generated solely by the player in his individual activities, which would not include any streaming revenues from team activities, which exclusion includes promotional activities, publicity activities, and other activities with other members of the team, on or prior to the date 90 days after the termination or expiration of the term, should be paid as follows. 30% should be paid to the player, and 70% shall be retained by the company.
That is literally... I've read quite a few contracts in my time, and that is the most ballsy, egregious thing I've ever seen.
What would you believe? I've seen ones where they retain 100% of your streaming revenue.
Fucking hell!
And they put it in there. Yeah, and they put it in their contracts. Put it this way: the original draft of this was 90%. Okay, and they I've seen contracts literally where it says they don't just mandate that they keep 100%. They also tell you how many hours you have to stream. And this is basic. This is basic. Yeah, but imagine that. So, in addition to your duties as a player, I insist you stream 8 hours a day. On top of that, and I keep 100% of the revenue you generate.
It's like in League of Legends during own TV days. Was it CLG that they had such strict schedules, and that's the only income from the team? They had to skip practicing for Worlds to get in their streaming hours, and then they ended up never getting paid because the company went bust.
Yep. So, I mean, again, this is what I mean. Any organization that wants to take a piece of your streaming, I think it's pretty grotesque. I don't mind if they want to provide an overlay and compensate you. That's fine. But certainly, I don't see how they're entitled to any piece of that unless they can prove they are driving more people to your stream.
Yeah.
If they can't prove that, get fucked.
It's the other way around. They're using you for numbers for sponsors.
Yeah,
they should be giving you everything. Like you said, they should be compensating you. Like, oh, please stream. Every time you stream, we'll give you a certain amount. For every hour, we'll give you this amount of money you stream.
Exactly right. Exactly fucking right. So, equipment. So, this is an interesting
First line's a banger already.
Yeah. Players shall supply his own equipment. So, okay, cool, thanks. With such equipment being current market-leading technology to enable the player to compete at the highest level. So that shitty old tattered mouse that you've had, if the organization doesn't like that you're using that, get fucked. You replace it out of your own expense, your own pocket. For example, a player shall have a computer gaming chair of equal or greater quality than that of the commonly recognized market leaders, which currently includes manufacturers the X-Race, Naxnomi, and Need for Seat.
Well, so €250 a chair. It's not cheap to replace.
Yeah, you've got to have one.
Not we won't give you one. You can buy one. Like
this reminds me. I mean, okay, so a long time ago, when I was basically a drug-addled mess living in Wales.
Same.
Yeah, kind of like you are right now, mate. I moved down there, and I'd come into a fair bit of money, and they didn't need to get a job, and I blew the money. I blew the money on good times, and I came round one day like, oh wait, and I went to the bank, like, oh, what? Nah, but yeah. I'd spent massive, I'd spent it all, hadn't I? I'd literally Gary Goodtimes
sniffed it all away.
Gary Goodtimes had gone to my bank and said, "Oh, hi there, I'm Mr. Goodtimes. I have power of attorney for Richard Lewis, and I'd like to take all of his money out of the bank account and fritter it away on cider and other things that aren't cider."
Here's 10 midnight ATM transactions for £500.
And the bank said, are you sure about this, Mr. Goodtimes? Because we've known Richard Lewis a while. He seems to be a responsible adult. And Mr. Goodtimes said, absolutely not. I can look, here's the papers. He signed it away. He said, Gary Goodtimes has complete dominion over my bank account. And it also says here that he would like to invoke the king for a day, fool for a lifetime clause at any given point. And lo and behold, the fucking money went. Anyway, so I ended up having to go out and find a job. And I was living with a friend at the time. And they were like, Rich, you're the one that's the more together out of us. You've got the better CV. You really got to get a job. And I was like, yeah. I got this, mate. I got this. So I went out, and there was this sales company, and they were selling internet. Again, I won't name who they are. They're not relevant. They don't even exist right now. But they were selling internet in Wales just when broadband was like coming in. When getting a broadband connection was a big deal. And I went there, and I passed the interview, And it quickly became apparent I was in a pyramid scheme. Like, I took this job and I was working for like 2-3 days, and they were saying shit like, "Oh, it'd be really good. It would help you get more sales if you had a brand new suit." And I'm like, "Okay, well, how much money am I going to make from this? Like, we haven't even talked salary yet, and I've just jumped in the job." I'm like, "Oh, no, you don't get salary. It's commission only. Don't worry about the salary though." Because what you can do is you can employ people below you to go out and do your sales work for you, and you keep 30% of all the sales they make. Right, okay, yeah, I see. So you're not going to provide me with any equipment at all? Nope. So you even had to buy your own clipboards, right? It was all, you had to go out and get all this shit yourself. Needless to say, I quit that job in quite spectacular fashion. That's a story for another time. And the bottom line is this is a lot like this. We expect you to have the equipment necessary to do the job on stream as well, so you can show it off, but we will not provide any of it for you. That's very strange. And certainly you should you should be dubious about that. They do say you'll get a gaming grade computer from the company in the event the company signs a contract with a computer manufacturer.
So if they get given one, you can have one.
So yeah, it basically is this, right? If we're going to try and sign a computer sponsorship deal, and if we get one, and if we get 5 PCs as part of that deal, we'll give you one of them. And that's like the biggest load of like, it's just pathetic, isn't it? It's just absolute grade A bullshit. It's just like, yeah, what we're thinking is, if we get a private jet sponsor, we'll give you a jet, mate. You can fly yourself to your own events. Well, yeah, brilliant. Love a jet, me. Yeah. Who's falling for that? Travel. The company agrees to reimburse some of the players' reasonable out-of-pocket travel expenses, pre-approved by the company to facilitate its participation in competitions during the term. The total amount of expenses to be funded by the company, pursuant to this Section 3F, shall not exceed $1,000 per competition. So that's not too bad. You get $1,000 travel money. But, I mean, again...
Not great.
Not great.
If you're an American team going to Europe, that isn't going to cover it. Hotel and flight.
And it's not quite clear from reading this. They get a $50 per diem, which isn't too bad. But players' travel expenses exceeded. If in the event players' travel expenses exceed the $1,000 cap, players shall solely be responsible for said expenses. So, I'd like to think that means that if they said, "Hey, we insist that you compete at this event overseas," well, it's going to be like you say. If it's America to Europe, it's way more than $1,000. I don't think you should be able to insist a player competes and then say, "And you've got to pay for it." This was a banger. Player acknowledges and agrees that any and all other sources of revenue, not specifically subject to a revenue share under this Section 3, shall be for the sole benefit of the company, including, without limitation, any revenues from stickers, third-party sponsorships, promotional activities, publicity activities, league payments, including subsidies, revenue sharing, expense reimbursement, and other payments or reimbursements, and merchandising. So, just to put this in, because there was a accompanying conversation when I got this contract, and they were basically saying, this is it's been made absolutely clear to us that, let's say, for example, we were to qualify for a major, get stickers in the pods, in the capsules for sale, we wouldn't see a penny of that. Just not a penny. And stickers in particular in CS have been a huge area of conflict. It's caused so many problems because, look, until they introduced the individual autographed ones, there was this argument. Well, okay, it's the team that got you there, but it's your logo and your intellectual property, so how do you divide it up? Now, I think 50-50 in that case is reasonable. I'm all right with 50-50. I certainly respect organizations that give players more. I think 50-50 is the ballpark. But given that, I know for a fact that there are some even top teams, elite level teams, that took 80% of that sticker money and gave 20% to the players. is disgusting. And this is 100%. And it isn't clear, but from the wording of the contract, it would also include the autographed stickers as 100%, which Valve put in there so players got them. And, again, Valve haven't said you have to give all of it to the players, and I know some don't necessarily get all of it, but they get the lion's share because it's their fucking autograph. But as you'll find out a little bit later in this contract, that doesn't matter, because anything that belongs to you as an identifying hallmark is theirs. It belongs to the company, belongs to this organization. And, of course, keep this in mind, merchandising. And we've seen players complain about this publicly before, and that is that, I know an organization that had a player signed to it that had a little clause in the contract basically saying we have your image rights and all of that, and lots of North American teams do this. And usually they say, that's there to facilitate. If we got a sponsorship deal and they wanted to put you on a box, it's just so we can negotiate that for you. And don't worry, we'll give you some money or whatever. What actually always ends up happening is you build your brand, then the organization wants to put your face or your logo or your slogan or catchphrase on a T-shirt and sell it, and then you have to negotiate with them what percentage you get, even though it's you, even though it's your image rights. And this is why, get yourself a fucking agent. Find a sports agent and get him to take these guys to the fucking cleaners. Because in this contract, all merchandising goes to the organization. Doesn't matter. Right, anyway, let's just...
Another point in that as well that I shouldn't leave out is league payments. So like a bunch of leagues pay you on a per game, sort of like a salary. So each game...
Good point.
Even like a UK teams, I remember when the UK ESL UK things, they would get like £100 a match or something. So every game they won, they got £100, and you wouldn't get any of that either through this, including revenue sharing as well.
Yep. So again, and probably it's worth mentioning that because that's happening more and more in leagues. Revenue share all goes to the team. You won't get any of that. And think about, for example, we in another video we talked about PEA and how PEA wants to do revenue sharing for players. Well, actually, even though PEA would be agreeing to give a revenue share to the players that were representing this organization wouldn't be entitled to that. They would have to tell PEA through the grievance council that they were getting fucked in the ass that way, and PEA would have to say, if you play in our league, you agree to give the players, and you get into where one contract supersedes another. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. So we've talked a lot about, this kind of unfairness, this financial disparity. It is worth mentioning as well that despite all of these demands that the average gaming organization makes of a player, be under no illusion, you are not an employee. And most contracts, almost across the board in esports, will point this out. And there's many reasons for this. But if you just go here to relationship of the parties, 4C, player represents and warrants that player is an independent contractor of the company. Obviously, we've changed this slightly to obscure names. And is not subject to overtime, vacation pay, disability benefits, unemployment, or any other payment or benefit made available to employees generally or to employees of the company specifically. Said waiver is to be enforced to the fullest extent permitted by a law. So you are treated like an employee. You have your behavior dictated to both inside and outside of competition, outside of training. You have given up your own personal dominion, like your Twitch space, and you get no employee benefits whatsoever for doing so. Now, also, keep in mind, because this segment's interesting, it does say in the other revenue sources, player acknowledges and agrees that any and all of the sources of revenues not subject to a revenue share should be for the sole benefit of the company, and this includes third-party sponsorships. And then it says here, in independent sponsorships, players shall be entitled to seek independent sponsorship with any person or entity that is not a sponsor or potential sponsor of the company, a competitor or potential competitor of a current or anticipated company or team sponsor or licensee, or involved in any way in any activity which the company determines in good faith could adversely impact the company, the team, the CSGO, or the CSGO.
The CSGO?
Or esports. Right, players shall not enter into any such independent sponsorship agreements without prior written consent from the company, which shall not be unreasonably withheld. So, I mean, I guess third-party sponsorships could be money-wise. Is there an argument that they can get a cut of that? I mean, it all seems a bit garbled. You can see this isn't the greatest contract. That's another thing as well. Very often I show these to lawyers and they just laugh and tear it to shreds, and they're like, well, this simply wouldn't stand. They're not very well written. But basically, you can see here, hey, you're allowed to pursue independent sponsorships. Aren't we generous? Aren't we wonderful, benevolent beings? But if we dictate that it's in any way competing or treading on our toes, we'll just tell you to get fucked. Doesn't matter how much groundwork you've put in. Doesn't matter, how much they're offering. Doesn't matter if they're offering you more money to sponsor you than we're paying you. While you're in this contract with us, we will ultimately have say over who is going to be allowed to sponsor you. And there's just other gibberish there. We can skip option 6 about right to first refusal. Now, this is termination. The way contracts are terminated are obviously very interesting. So either party can terminate for cause. And basically that means that if there is cause to terminate a contract, that's like, if there's been a breach. I'll just read you what they put here. So if you're in a material breach of the agreement and you don't cure the material breach, if you fail to perform any of the services, that would be cause. If you are unable to render the services because of illness or incapacity or injury, even one sustained in the duties of representing this organization, that would be cause to terminate your contract. If you're no longer legally permitted to compete, if you're suspended or banned, that would be cause. If you commit acts resulting in fines, because there's a section about fines. So if you did anything that where they had to fine you a few times, even though you'd be making them money, that would be cause. They would get rid of you for that. If you engage in a conduct which the company deems to be harmful to the team, the company, CSGO or esports, or any of the sponsors, that would be cause. So all of those things would be cause to terminate the contract. And basically, when that happens, that's it. You shall have at the point your contract is terminated for cause, the company has no further obligation to you. You will only be owed up to services rendered to the termination date, and it will be calculated on a pro-rata basis. And just get the fuck out. It happens very quickly. Now, buyout options. So this is the other big cause of consternation in these contracts. You will notice very often that there's players get signed by organizations for long periods of time. I've seen some solicitors, lawyers, whatever you want to call them, advise players to enter into 2-year contracts in some cases. This is madness. This is madness in the esports space. 2 fucking years is an eternity to sign any bit of paperwork in an industry where every 3 months everything changes. Entire games have risen and fallen in less than 2 years. Do not enter into a contract longer than a year. Certainly longer than a year. At that point, it will not offer you as a player any protection, especially given all of these contracts just allow organizations to basically go bust, pack up their toys, and never pay you a penny anyway. So it's utterly pointless. All it can do is harm you. And one of the reasons why organizations want to do this is because of buyout. And buyouts have been happening more and more in esports. And what you'll see is organizations go out, they get a player, they sign them to a contract, and they put in a really unreasonable buyout clause. Really unreasonable. And here you can see, keep in mind, $3,000 a month salary, right? So, you're making $36,000 annually.
It's not like it's going to be a major winning team or anything.
No, but just as well it isn't, because you get fucked for 50%. But somehow, despite the fact you only earn $36,000 annually in the contract, the buyout clause is $150,000 fucking dollars. So to get one of these players, I would have to pay $150,000. Now, here's the thing. No one's going to pay $150,000 for one of these players. It's a trap, to quote Admiral Akbar. Which, if Sam bends over with no clothes on, he can do a pretty good Admiral Akbar impression with his testicles. Please doodle that.
I'm just thinking of how that looks. It doesn't look like Admiral Akbar.
Because of his eyes on the side. You put the Arabian goggles out.
Right.
It's a trap. Just practice in a mirror, mate.
I will do.
Right. So $150,000, and so here's what happens. You're playing for this organization. Things aren't going too well. You get wind that another organization is looking to replace a player, and they are like, "Are you under contract?" And you go, "Yeah, you'd need to talk to my management about this." And they're like, "Well, we'd really like to get you in the team." And then they go to the fucking owner, and they say, "Oh yeah, we'd really like this player to join our organization as our fifth. What's his buyout clause? $150,000, but." And conversation over. So you're trapped. Now, here's what's even crazier. They can keep in mind they can drop you from the team. We've seen that, right, in the contract. Yes, they can drop you anytime they want. They can put you on a subs bench. They can fine you. You can do any of this stuff. And more often than not, what they'll do is they won't terminate your contract, because that would be kissing goodbye to $150,000 worth of buyout potentially. So they drop you to the bench, or as they use it in the parlance of esports, you are a streamer. You are now a streamer for the organization. Oh, brilliant. So you're now not even paying me a salary because I'm not in the first team, but you still got 70% of my streaming revenue. That's right.
Yee.
Yee. All over your face. Yee. Deal with it, right? A face full of yee. And that's it now. And they know they can do this ad infinitum. Sign players, get them in a team, drop them, take their streaming money, and then have $150,000 fucking buyout. It is bullshit. Organizations are doing this all over the fucking place in esports. They're doing it all over the place, and they are profiting from, it's like a gamble. It's like a gamble that you can't really lose as an organization. It's a very heavily stacked gamble. The only people who get fucked on it are the players. I sign to a team drops me. I can't join another team because my buyout's too high. I'm streaming. They're taking my streaming money. And eventually, just to get out of this fucking dystopian, Kafka-esque nightmare where I'm just held in place by bureaucracy that I had ultimately little say in, eventually either someone pays something close to the buyout and the organization agrees and you get out, or your contract ends. That's it. And that is ridiculous. And get this, let's say for whatever reason they want to get rid of you, they don't have to pay you the full amount of the contract. So if they don't want to fucking get rid of you, they can sit on you, keep you there. Someone has to come in and pay $150,000 to get you out. But if they want to get rid of you for whatever reason, like just, fuck him off. I'm not even happy giving him his 30% of his streaming money. Fuck this guy. Right? And they get rid of you. They only have to pay you $3,000 at any time. So you don't get the full extent of your contract. You don't get anything close to the buyout. There's $3,000.
That's a mum's wage. Fuck out my face.
Get the fuck out of my face. And then it says, in the event the player chooses to terminate this agreement and discontinue competitive play for at least a succeeding 1 year period, the player shall have the right to terminate this agreement by providing the company written notice. For the avoidance of doubt, competitive play should be defined as participation in any tournament, league, or other event with respect to the CSGO or similar esports competitions offering a collective prize pool of more than $5,000. If a player violates this provision, the player should be obligated to immediately pay to the company the player buyout amount. So, let's just put this in the context, just in case you didn't get it, and I know you got it, but let's just make it absolutely fucking clear. Let's say you are like, well, this is shit. I'm locked into this contract. This is absolute fucking cancer. I want out. I'm just going to retire. I'd rather retire than have to be bound by this contract. So they go, all right then, give us written notice that you're retiring, and retirement, as they define it, is that you cannot play in any tournament that pays out more than $5,000 for 1 year. And if you do, let's say you are effectively retired, and then you had no intention of playing, and then an organization comes in and goes, "Hey, you all right, bud? You were pretty good back when you were on that shit team that fucking was rinsing you. Do you want to join our team? We'll definitely not rinse you." "Oh, yeah, actually, I have been getting the bug back again. It's been 6 months." If you go and play for that team, they're going to call up that organization and go, "Yeah, just so you know, he's still actually bound by this retirement clause, and he owes us $150,000. Reasonable, right? You can't escape. You can't escape. They have enslaved you. People say that's too harsh a word. Maybe it is. Maybe that's hyperbole. Maybe that's melodramatic. But I don't know how else to describe this. You're locked in. They can fire you for $3,000 and your bus fare home, get the fuck out my face anytime they want. But you can't even join another team and pursue your career unless someone's going to pay $150,000. So, ridiculous. Ridiculous. We can talk about the fines. I guess it's kind of interesting, right? Basically, it just says the player acknowledges that he may be subject to fines if he doesn't do, and then there's a big list of this shit: chronic lateness, failure to attend training, failure to attend promotional activities or other events. What else? Failure to undertake publicity activities, unsportsmanlike behavior directed at other team members, coaches, analysts, managers, or opposing players, or coaches, fans, referees, officials, other persons or entities, and other actions that are considered contrary to community standards of justice. That's all one clause.
Standards of justice.
What the fuck is a community standard of justice?
Dildo slaps.
Doesn't even end there. There's another comma. It's the longest sentence ever. Community standards of justice, honesty or good morals, including fraud, any felony, negligence or willful misconduct that injuries a person or property, or other acts constituting moral turpitude. As such, fines, suspensions, and/or disqualifications may be issued by the company not to exceed the monthly compensation paid to the player by the company. So, keep in mind, that's pretty fucking broad. Chronic lateness, missing a sponsor activity, doing anything that may adversely impact the owner, the team, the league, or competitions or sponsors. May, right? Like, it's so broad, it's so nebulous, they can just fine you a month's wage. Like that. You've agreed to that, to just have a month's wage just taken from you. For any reason. And let's say you've already had your monthly wage. Well, as a player, you have agreed to promptly pay all such fines, like rapido. And if you don't, the team just deduct it, from the next lot of salary. So if you've already spent the money, don't worry, you're just fucked for 2 months now. Right? You're not getting paid next month because we made up a bullshit reason for a fine. So then it says there's a limitation on player remedies, of course. We see this all over in esports. If there's any breach of the agreement by the company, players' remedy, that's obviously seeking damages, etc., should be limited to an action for damages, if any, and in no event shall the player be entitled to terminate this agreement or to seek to enjoin or restrain in any way, directly or indirectly, the performance of the team, the company, the other players on the team, or similar actions. Players expressly agree that any damage caused to player thereby will not be irreparable or otherwise so insufficient as to entitle the player to injunctive or equitable relief. Players' damages, if any, should be limited in any event to the amount then due and payable under Section 3. So basically what this says is, if, let's say that the company breaches the contract across the board.
I haven't paid you for months, what I mean? Nothing's coming in.
That doesn't terminate the contract. That's what they're trying to say. Good luck with that, by the way. A lawyer will shit all over this.
And also, if you refuse to play, they wreck you as well, because it says you cannot do anything that will harm the team.
You cannot even withdraw your labor. The fundamental right of any human being who is being mistreated by their employer is to withdraw their labor until suitable circumstances, conditions are agreed upon. That is a fucking fundamental right. That is a worker's right. But no, You don't get that. You can only get damages. And by the way, we even put a limitation on the damages, as outlined in Section 3. Again, trying to allude to the fact that, yeah, we'll give you a month's salary on top. How about that, right? Bullshit. And this, and this can, I think this will be the end of it, actually. Although there's a little interesting bit of assumption of risk, but this is just the classic.
The old P word.
The old P word, intellectual property and right of publicity. So the player grants to the company the non-exclusive right in perpetuity throughout the universe. No joke, by the way, you're laughing. This term, throughout the universe or throughout the known universe, is in so many esports contracts. Top teams, you know who you are. I've seen them. I'm talking every game. Dota, Counter-Strike, League of Legends, universe. As if in 10, 15 years from now, aliens are going to have touched down and there's some greedy fucking esports owner who's going to be, well, when the aliens come, they might want to get involved in this esports thing, mate.
Pasha biceps on the side of Apollo 47, flying into the space station.
You are my spaceship, my friend.
With you, my friend.
Biceps will always communicate in alien language, friend. Yeah, it's ridiculous, right? Esperanto. It's nonsense. The universe. This is just to ensure that there's nowhere for you to hide. And perpetuity as well, which we've talked about on this show. Perpetuity. It's forever. It's forever. We own you forever. And they own your name, your likeness, your image, your voice, your appearance, performance, statements, photographs, audio and or video footage, and any other material supplied by referencing or including player in any format.
What's missing from that that's usually in there is the right to edit as well, what they say.
Yeah, it seems like League of Legends.
Again, poor lawyer, of course.
Yeah.
If you're going to fuck the player, fuck him right, like.
So there you go.
The tip.
And it's there just in case. B, you still own your rights, yeah? Well, here's the thing. We get into this situation. This clause can never exist in esports. Come on. It's so retarded. I play for one team for 3 months. I've signed away my image likeness rights in perpetuity. I join another team. I sign a copy-paste of this contract. They now own my rights to perpetuity and say that, well, you must have the rights, right? Or you can't sign this contract. Well, I don't even know. I don't even know anymore. I've signed 5 of these fucking things. Who owns me?
Who owns my face?
Yeah, who owns my fucking chops? I don't know. I don't know anymore. It's ridiculous. And this is the situation that you find stuff in. I tell a story all the time. I know top-level pros who literally, right, said to me, they were on a box of a peripheral company. Their face on a box going, fucking love this headset, me. Right? And I said,
this mouse is sound.
You must have got a fucking fortune for that, fellas. And they're a big peripheral company. And they were like, this is like, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. And they were like, nah, we just did it because we thought it'd be cool. Sound. Sound. I declare this. Sound.
Turns out. Not cool.
Yeah, turns out not cool. You know, the upturn in sales from all the little kiddie winks. They're like, I want to be like those players that I love so very much because they're like one of the best teams in the world. I will go and buy this peripheral. That upturn in sales that was reported by the peripheral company, they were like, yeah, it was a great partnership, that. And the players are like, hang on a fucking minute.
Partnership?
Yeah. Unreal. So there you have it. I mean, and again, it more gibberish there. I suppose this is interesting. This might be where we end it. 13, right? Oh, no, because 15's good too. 12. Let's end it on 12. 15 we'll go, but we'll go 12, 15. Section 12, assumption of risk. Now, we know esports is a dangerous business, Sam.
Fucking hell.
It's a dangerous business, mate. It's made me fat, bald. It's definitely esports that did it. It's made me stressed. It's given me loads of health problems. High blood pressure, hypertension. I've survived cardiac arrest. I'm myopic. You've got that chronic masturbation problem.
All esports.
All esports. Right? So it's dangerous, yo. So the assumption of risk. The player understands and agrees that there are risks involved with professional electronic sports gaming, including, but not limited to, eye damage, carpal tunnel syndrome, and other damage associated with extended periods of computer-based work. The player hereby expressly assumes all such risks. So, you make me go to all these tournaments. You make me do all these publicity appearances. You make me play all this practice time. You make me attend training, or you fine me. If my wrists get fucked because you're working me like a jackal, working me like a fucking dog... I don't know if you work jackals. I just realised. Don't know what you would work a jackal for. Right?
Dealing cards.
Yeah, it is. Just me jackal. Anyway, whatever. Working you like a dog. I mean, you don't really work dogs. Oh, you do if you're in the Arctic, though.
I guess.
Give them a whip and that mush, Anyway, they're working you like a fucking dog. You assume all the risks. It's all on you.
Also, they can terminate it if you're ill.
Yeah, of course. If your wrists,
it's crumbling apart.
Just listen, it's crunch.
My bones have turned to biscuits.
I'm just walking around like a fucking velociraptor with problems, and you fucked. Bad wrists, is it? Yeah. They're both fucked. Look at them. Can't keep them up straight. Yeah, don't worry. We'll get right on that. Terminated contract, Brian. Fucking get rid of that.
Also, that's not my bad.
Yeah. Fuck that. Like, no, but does he not have any recourse? Because we made him train like fucking 20 hours a day.
Stream 8 hours a day.
Yeah, and then stream the remaining 4, and we only allowed him to sleep on weekends. And in fact, he built a bridge over the River Kwai as well, if I remember correctly. Don't worry about that. He assumes all the risk, mate.
He knew what he was getting into.
Oh, this is fucking mint contract, this. That's the nonsense, folks. That's the nonsense. And this is, I'll just mention this because it's funny, because it's got the word death in it. Right. To the full extent permitted under the law, player, his personal representatives, successors, and assigns hereby assume all risk of injury or damages to his person or property, including death, while involved in the performance of the services, including engaging in any promotional activity and publicity activity, as well as for the use of all activities on the premises where and when such activities are undertaken. So, basically, in a nutshell, keep in mind that if you died while you were like playing LCS for Riot, they at least said we limit it to $25,000. You'll get $25,000. Like, we'll at least pay for the burial. If you get crushed by a studio light in the middle of, you do it. There you go. Oh, and he's about to hit his ultimate smash.
You get killed by a massive black dildo thrown from the ground.
Obviously. Lips. It's killed by a fatal dildo to the lips. Right? You would get 25 grand for that. Hit? Nah. Not a fucking bean. Not a bean. Not a bean. No, but hang on. You said he had to go to that photo shoot and then he died en route to it. Yeah, Sam. Yeah. We're very, very sorry to hear about your loss, Mr. and Mrs. Player. But get fucked.
Can you not tell anyone he's dead because we want to try and get this buyout?
Yeah.
Just going to try and sell him anyway.
Yeah, we're going to try and sell his bones, if that's all right with you. Can we do that? Can we just sell his fucking bones? Well, who's going to buy bones? I don't know. Dog food company, if the worst comes to the worst, mate.
That's £4.
Yeah, that's £4. Right, and then here you go. Sorry, it was clause 14, just to end it. Now, look, I think you can see over the course of this long video, this is a fairly unreasonable contract. I would not, put it this way, I've been an owner of an organization. I've ran organizations. None of this does not resemble certainly any contract I would approve of. I wouldn't advise a player to sign a contract like this. I would advise any players that see contracts like this, if you watch this video, I would advise you to seriously get some legal remedy, because this is an unreasonable contract. Here's the problem, though. While you're retained by the company, all of this, including the contents of your contract, become confidential information, and you're not allowed to talk about any of it. There's a confidentiality clause. So you couldn't sit down and tell, I don't know, a fucking colleague, I'm on this contract. You couldn't tell your mum.
Mum, they're trying to sell my bones.
Mum, it says they can sell my bones, Mum. Couldn't do it. And basically anything you hear while you're... And this is the other thing I hate about confidentiality clauses. This is why NDAs are very insidious. Because what people don't realize is, yes, obviously you should be professional. And if you've got an axe to grind, you could give away some personal information that you overheard while you were working for a company, and it could be done maliciously and spiteful, and it could have huge ramifications for not just profits, but for people's well-being. Okay, I get that. On the other end of the spectrum, this stops whistleblowers. Things like this stop people coming out. So this organization could be like, I don't know, yeah, so one thing we'll do is we'll break into this children's hospital. We'll use the sale of dead children's organs to get this team to the international, and then we'll keep 50% of the prize money. And that's how we're going to dig ourselves out of the hole because we borrowed the money from the Russian mob to create this organization. Now, okay, that's a super unreasonable and unlikely outcome. But if a player knew that, they wouldn't be allowed to talk about it because they've got to keep all of that stuff confidential, the financials, the particulars, blah blah blah. It's not fair. It's nonsense. So hopefully, having had a look at that just gives you an idea of some of the contracts that are out there and why I do rail against these contracts so vocally. We still talk a lot about how great it is, how professional this era is. We talk about player-owned organizations and profits and merchandising. Seriously, there's so many people out there, even respectable, supposedly respectable people, high-level organizations that are robbing players blind, that are manipulating players to sign contracts, then using them to earn profit off the back of their talent, their labor, their efforts. They treat them like walking billboards. They have all of the expectations, none of the rights. To put it succinctly, in almost every contract of this nature I see, the gaming organization has choices, but the player has obligations. That is a very disparate distribution of power, and it's one that's got to be addressed moving forward. As always, Sam, any final thoughts?
Rest in peace, Easy.
He wouldn't be resting in peace if he signed this fucking contract, mate. I'll tell you that.
I'd be selling his bones.
Time to sell Easy's bones. Actually, better not, mate. They might need a good wash. Anyway, see you on the next video. Bye.